In the cold hush of a storm-soaked night, as the rain hammered against the cracked windows of my crumbling family home, I found myself recounting a story that has lived in the marrow of my bones for years, one I swore never to speak aloud but which festers inside me like a living wound, and though I know my words will sound like madness, I swear on the last shred of my sanity that what I lived through was real. It began when I was 17 and the world still felt wide open, when my parents had gone away for a funeral and left me alone with the shadowed halls and groaning beams of the place I had grown up in. And though I had always felt the unease of its long corridors and the damp, suffocating basement, I dismissed it as childish dread. Yet that night the air carried something heavier, something that made my skin prickle as if unseen eyes were grazing over me. I remember hearing the first sound, a low scrape like metal against wood, coming from the basement door which had always stayed bolted shut. Though I never knew why, my father used to tell me to leave it alone, that it was just storage. But that night the bolt was undone, dangling loose, and as I stood staring, the door creaked open of its own accord, releasing a breath of air so foul and damp it choked me. I told myself to shut it and walk away, but some force, something deeper than curiosity, pulled me down the steps, each creak of the rotting wood sounding like bones snapping, and at the bottom, in the flickering glow of a single dangling bulb, I saw carvings on the walls I had never noticed before. Shapes of eyes, teeth, and stretched human faces as if pressed from the inside of the concrete. My heart thundered, and yet I couldn't look away, because in the far corner, behind stacks of rusted tools, was an old rocking chair, and upon it sat something that should not have existed. A figure too tall, too thin, skin like parchment stretched over bones, eyes black and wet as tar, and it smiled at me, slowly, as if it had been waiting. My instinct was to scream, to run, but my body betrayed me, locked in place as its long fingers pointed toward the carvings, and suddenly the bulb above me began to pulse like a heartbeat, faster and faster until it exploded, plunging me into darkness. I don't remember climbing the stairs, I don't remember shutting the door, but I do remember waking hours later in my bed, soaked in sweat, with the sound of the rocking chair echoing faintly below. Back and forth, and for days afterward, nothing felt right. Food lost its taste. The air carried whispers I couldn't decipher, and shadows seemed to twitch when I wasn't looking, until one night, weeks later, I found mud-caked footprints on the floor leading from the basement door straight to the foot of my bed. I wanted to believe it was a nightmare, but the prints stained the wood, and no matter how hard I scrubbed, they never faded. My parents came back. I tried to tell them, but they only shook their heads and told me the house was old. My father's face grew pale though when I mentioned the carvings, and he warned me never to speak of it again, saying some things should stay buried. But how can I stay silent when even now, years later, I hear it, that endless rocking below me, and sometimes when I close my eyes, I see that smile in the dark, waiting, patient, as if it knows I will one day go back down. And the truth is, I feel it inside me already, like a sickness spreading, and maybe that's why I'm telling you this, because I know it wants me to, because maybe the story isn't mine anymore. Maybe the moment you hear it, it becomes yours, and when tonight falls silent and you find yourself alone in your room, you will hear it too. The creak of wood, the slow scrape, and then the rocking, always the rocking, until you finally understand the terror of realizing that some doors, once open, never close again.